Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the Rule 34 podcast. I'm your host, Jack, joined by my fellow guest.
It's Mr. Solis. Hello and happy December, Jack.
Happy December to you, too. How have you been so far, sir, since our last episode?
I can't complain. We got 2 weeks left of the semester. Everyone's healthy. And, I got to see everyone over Thanksgiving. Everyone, my small two-household family of 9. And how are you, sir?
I've been doing good. As I was telling Mr. Solis, in our conversations before we start recording, I'm in the final stretch. I got this last week. Next week are my finals, and that's the first quarter done.
First quarter done. Wow.
Yeah,
and then you get another quarter in, and that's like a whole semester at USC. You're almost there, Jack.
Yeah.
I'm throwing shade at you, sir.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of iffy about the quarter system going through it, I mean, it's been kind of good, but it's like they give us a 3-week break, which is kind of like what high school is like.
Right.
And then we go through that quarter, which is classified as the winter quarter. But here's why it kind of annoys me and doesn't make sense to me. We get maybe a week of break, and then we go into the spring quarter. And I don't even think it's like a full week. It's maybe 3-4 days.
Yeah.
And then we go into the next quarter, right after that for spring quarter, I guess it's because I'm so used to semester system. It's just me kind of saying, why not just run the full length,
Oh, for sure. For sure. I get you. And it's something to definitely get used to. So you're saying that the next quarter that you have coming up is between winter break and spring break.
Yeah.
Got it. What's funny? The semester system, I think what I like about the quarter system is that summer makes more sense. It's itself its own quarter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
4 quarters makes a whole. In the semester system, you got semester 1, semester 2, and then this funny period of time and space where nothing is quite the same. And are you a sophomore and are you a junior? I don't know. It's all very amorphous. You're literally going through a time warp. Nothing makes sense until August.
Yeah. But so far I've been holding up. As far as I've heard, Dom's been holding up too.
That's great.
Yeah, he also started working, so he's told me he's doing a good job balancing the two.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but overall, been really good. Excited to get a little break. I mean, before 3 weeks of break didn't sound like a lot, just because at the same time there would be some work to do. But now knowing the only work I'm gonna have to do is just the usual work I do around the house, helping out,
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
So that's the case. That's a byproduct of the fact that you're about to wrap up classes and you're not starting the others until you come back.
Yeah.
Where before you'd have Soto or Knox or me breathing down your neck going, hey, I'm going to see you again in January and here's what I need you to do in the meantime. This is incredible. Yeah. I'm really excited for you.
Yeah. That's the one thing I was excited for was, the actual breaks because, once you finish a class, that's the definitive end, Mm-hmm. Whereas, in high school, it was, okay, here's the break, but at the same time, we want to make sure, which is also a good thing, they want to make sure you retain the information, so they give you at least something to keep those ideas in your mind.
Mm-hmm. I asked a counselor once if I can retake a math class I got to see in. And and this is long before I ever met or knew of what Alliance was, probably even before I even decided to become a teacher. I had a C in a class, and I said, "Can I do that one again? Can I do it over?" And he looked at me like I shot him in the heart. And he goes, "No, are you crazy?" And I'm like, "Wow, it's no harm in asking." So I just think it's funny. 8 years later, the conversations that we have about reassessments, doing things over, setting y'all up for success.
Yeah, that is definitely the biggest change from high school is, not having those reassessments there. But it's better because it makes you properly prepare for your exams this time.
It's open,
Yeah. But so, we'll move on to today's topic. NXT Takeover Wargames.
Mm-hmm.
that opening to me was awesome. I really enjoyed that so much.
Set to a song. You familiar with it, Jack?
No, I think that was my first time hearing it, if I remember
correctly. It's a good one. It's about 50 years old. It's Black Sabbath's War Pigs.
Yeah. Man. And NXT just does a really good job of hyping up their matches, and I really enjoy it.
Agreed.
Yeah. And, I've seen a lot of complaints just for, like, beforehand, which was the fact that, they felt like it wasn't as booked as much,
Yeah.
Like, it didn't have that much booking going into it, but, like, the way they do their openings and, like, the pre-match promo packages, they really make up for, like, maybe for the lack of booking that they may have had in the past weeks. They make up for it there because they're able to, it amazes me, like, within, like, 2-3 minutes, they're able to, like, properly build up the match and, like, kind of give it the build that it may have been lacking beforehand.
Yeah, and you know what I noticed? Like, we'll talk more about the booking later, but, like, even, like, the women's match, I found myself invested in, actually because of, like, the people involved,
Yeah.
I was like, I like Shotzi, and I like Io Shirai, and I like Ember Moon more and more, and I go, God, I'm really rooting for them, like,
yeah.
Booking with notwithstanding, on the other side, you've got quite a formidable force developing with Candice and her minion, Indy Hartwell.
Yeah.
And Dakota Kai, still paired with Raquel Gonzalez is like a pair that I'm really excited to see. Be put in such a prominent position.
Yeah. But overall, good match, and then compared to Shotzi's team, I think LeRae's team, at least when they came out, they didn't. It all like they kind of. I mean, all of them kind of went regular attire, but I think Shotzi's team kind of went more out there with their attire and stuff. LeRae had the good entrance, with her wings that she brought out, but like the rest of them, it was like, okay, it's kind of the same as what they usually do. Whereas Shotzi's team had a variety, so I kind of like that. And speaking of the presentation, the way Shotzi comes out with her new tank.
Yeah, I hope we see it again. I hope we see it, more and more. Not on a weekly basis, but,
At least for the takeovers, whenever.
And I think to your point, all of these changes in, like, attire made everything felt bigger, more important.
Yeah, that's what I was telling my dad about was, when it comes to a lot of wrestlers, a lot of them don't really think about their attire that much. Like, obviously, they'll add, like, special designs to them sometimes, or, like, if they're trying to pay tribute to something, they'll do it. But what I was telling my dad was a lot of them don't put that much attention into it, and they don't realize how vital it is,
It's incredibly vital.
Yeah, like I was saying, I'm like, the reason a lot of people are getting really invested and interested with Shotzi was because of the way she presented herself, She has a unique look. She was bringing out the tank, which got people interested in her. And so I was like, Tana, I'm like, it's really vital that a lot of them focus on, what some people might think is a little thing, Because, like, it can go a long way. The way you present yourself is going to be the first thing the audience sees, and that's what's going to get them invested in your character.
We'll catch up the audience here. We're going to start with the first match of the night, and that is a War Games match. Pitting, let's see if I can do this without reading, Candice LeRae, Dakota Kai, Raquel Gonzalez, and Toni Storm versus Shotzi Blackheart, Rhea Ripley, Ember Moon, and the NXT Women's Champion, Io Shirai. And as I rattle off those 8 names, Jack, I'm reminded of NXT having this sort of sine wave of a relationship with their talent and their roster. It's ups and downs, and the downs are usually when people leave for Raw. And you know what I mean? It's just like we found ourselves, I think, at another peak, at least in the women's division, where you go, actually, there's a lot of them.
Yeah. And there's like a lot that, if you remember, I think it was back at 31, or at least when we were covering, I think it was back when we covered Takeover 31. after Io's match with Dakota Kai, at that time we said, well, who should step up to Io, because at the time it wasn't seen like there was much credible threats.
Right, and I was telling my dad, whom I watched this with. I watched this event last night with my dad and my brother again. I said, this is their opportunity to say they have a claim at the champion if they can beat that team.
Yeah.
But gosh, Jack, do you think anyone needs a refresher course on what the heck a War Games match is?
Ooh, actually, I don't. They might need to. So, War Games originated in the old promotion, WCW World Championship Wrestling. Essentially, 2 teams of 4 would fight together. There's 2 rings, and usually, obviously, it's 1 ring, and if there's a cage that goes on there. But so it's 2 rings side by side, and it's a cage big enough to go over both rings.
Right.
And the rules are that the 1 member from each team enters, and then based on the time intervals, 1 member from each team will go in. And it's not until that all 4 members from both teams enter that the match officially starts, and there can be a pinfall or submission.
Right.
And the added rule that NXT added was that if you leave the cage, you lose the match. And I believe they added this because the old War Games in WCW had a roof on their cage, whereas NXT removed the top of the cage, making it open, as a way of escape.
Interesting that you point that out, because I didn't know there was a relationship between the change in that rule and the change in the design of the structure. It's a pleasant surprise in their display of logic and continuity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I bet too that they pulled off that roof because in the live setting it's almost impossible to see anything.
Yeah.
When the roof's on it if you're looking down from the high seat. So it's so funny. I can picture Triple H and Shawn Michaels in the back talking about, we got to take the roof off. Well, what if somebody leaves? Well, let's make it so that they shouldn't or they couldn't.
Yeah.
Agreed. I mean, that's just a really funny conversation to picture.
Yeah. And another thing, normally when NXT runs these events, they're in arenas, they're in these huge arenas, and so they're able to fit the 2 rings. But they're in the Performance Center right now, which is very much smaller than usual,
Mm-hmm.
And normally NXT runs in Full Sail, which is kind of almost similar size to the Performance Center, So when this was announced, everyone was wondering how they were going to do it. Especially because a lot of people didn't even think it was going to happen because they didn't have the room. But my dad excellently predicted that they would probably cut off a bit of the entranceway to be able to fit the 2 rings in. And that's what they did.
I noticed watching actually Timothy Thatcher and Kushida in an NXT leading up to it. I think they're using smaller rings.
Yeah, I think that's too. Because I don't think just shortening the ramp would have made room for 2 standard size rings.
I was watching that super awesome match between Thatcher and Kushida, and seeing Thatcher just stand in I don't know, there's something the way the camera framed the shot. You could see both ends, both corner posts in a way that I don't think you should be able to. And I just sort of looked at that and went, that looks like a smaller ring. And thinking this out with you now about the things they needed to do to make a War Games match fit in that Performance Center, I think we've been had, Jack.
And going back to like the structure, as we'll see from the 2 matches that occur in War Games, I think another reason they did it was because they knew that someone diving off the top would create a pop from the crowd.
So let's do it every single time, huh?
Yep. That's what my dad was poking fun at. It didn't happen this year, but my dad was poking fun at because